What we've been told by U.S. officials now for more than a week that it was off Australia, and now with this refinement, what the Malaysians have just done is said, listen, this plane crashed in the southern Indian Ocean and nobody survived. This was an effort to give some closure to the families in Beijing and elsewhere who had, including 3 Americans who were on this aircraft, that this is a lost aircraft and every soul on board was lost. So that's why the Malaysians came out and said this, that this additional satellite data, the refinement of it, tells us that this plane crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. Now, back to the debris, and this is very important, Josh. This is the area that they're looking for the debris, and there were a lot of spottings of debris today because we have all these aircraft now. We have 10 aircraft that are searching this area, and it is now dark there, and there is a ship in this area now, and the Malaysians are hoping that by tomorrow they might be able to actually pick up a piece of debris and say, here is part of Flight 370. But it has drifted so far, 300 to 700 miles away, we're not going to find the aircraft there. The way we find the aircraft is by going back to the 2 last flight paths that have been plotted from that satellite data. And what we are hoping that as they refine it, we get to one area where they think this flight actually impacted the ocean, and then they will make a grid over that area and start using those underwater little subs and sonar that you can drag through the water to start listening for that pinger, because we are going to be running out of batteries in a couple of weeks.
Again, David, as that search has now become refined, we do want to also bring in ABC News aviation consultant Colonel Stephen Ganyard in Washington. And Steve, you made it clear this morning, even before that press conference, that the first and arguably most important part of this search is now complete, and that is providing the families of those lost 239 souls with a sense of closure, again, as we look to identify where this plane did go down and how it did in fact crash. But this moment now, having provided that moment to those families of the 239 people on board, what next then what's the next step in this search, Steve?
Josh, the one thing that I heard from the Prime Minister that gives me hope, and we need to track this down, is that there may be some new data from Inmarsat, the company that runs the satellite constellation that originally gave us these 2 arcs. There may be some new data that gives us a little bit more precise information. As you say, we now have closure for the families. The debris search is not as important anymore. What we need to do now is get to the black boxes. And remember that the airplane was on this southerly heading, and it went into the water. And after it hit the water, there was some debris that floated, and it floated off to the east for 700 miles perhaps. But at the bottom of the ocean, where that airplane impacted, is where most of the human remains are going to be and where the black boxes are. And as we've been saying for weeks now, the only way to solve this mystery is to get to those black boxes. So I'm encouraged that potentially we may have new information from Inmarsat that will allow us to refine where that aircraft went in. Because to find it in the bottom of the ocean is if we thought it was finding the debris was hard, finding it on the bottom of the ocean is going to be at least twice as hard. So just hoping that something good is going to come out of what we're hearing today.
So the technical part really has just begun.